Guys, seeing that the election did not go the way that the race grifters wanted it to go, I'm just curious what happens to them now.
Defense nominee Peter Hegseth, the Fox News commentator as well, because this is someone who, weekend host, important distinction. This is someone who, is known to be a white supremacist, known to be an extremist, whose platform, whose book is basically about his opposition to the advancement of black officers to the top brass. And
that right there, my friends, was a take from some lady on Chris Hayes, who was talking about the brand new Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth, talking about him being a white supremacist. There's actually this little thing going on online right now. Apparently a picture of him with his shirt off, and a lot of people have come out and said that that emblem right there on his chest is a swastika. Granted, that does not look anything like a swastika. It does look a little bit like an iron cross, but of course, upon a closer examination, you find out that it's actually the cross of Jerusalem. Of course, if these people would crack open a book or actually read or do some research, then they would know this. But like I said, we're talking about those who live on the racial grift, because obviously the racial grift is their currency. It is their way of life, and they quite frankly can't do anything outside of that. So let's have a conversation about this. But first, this week in race grifting, going into Friday, going into the weekend, I got to play a little montage for you guys. So here we go.
Another minute on Joy Reid. It's a TikTok situation until her ass is fired. It's just, there's no way MSNBC, which is in a full meltdown now about how bad their losses were, there's no way they can keep this woman. I realize they're in the same problem that the Democrat Party is. Like, they have a base that they need to keep. But she and her little friend, Ellie Mistel, are truly the most racist people on television.
Direct the Department of Justice to pursue federal civil rights cases against schools that continue to engage in racial discrimination and schools that persist in explicit, unlawful discrimination under the guise of equity will not only have their endowments taxed, but through budget reconciliation, I will advance a measure to have them fined up to the entire amount of their endowment. A portion of the seized funds will then be used as restitution for victims of these illegal and unjust policies that hurt our country so badly. Colleges have gotten hundreds of billions of dollars from hardworking taxpayers, and now we are going to get this anti-American insanity out of our institutions once and for all. We are going to have real education in America. Thank you.
So, in other words, reparations for white people.
Oh, believe me when I tell you this, what you guys are seeing in the B-roll footage, Joy Reid is not the only one that we're going to be talking about. I'm showing you guys Don Lemon reacting to the exact same clip that was posted to Twitter. It was also posted to the YouTube account, simply titled Donald J. Trump. It was put out by the Trump campaign. And of course, what Donald Trump was talking about was, for the most part, getting rid of all the wokeness in schools, getting rid of the rampant racial crap that's going on in our classrooms, getting kids to think about stuff that they quite frankly need to be thinking about, learning about, basic education, that type of stuff there, rather than college curriculum classes that are designed to teach these kids to hate each other, that type of stuff there. Also, Donald Trump intends on shutting down the Department of Education, which I really and truly believe he should. He wants to send it back to the states, and I think that's a very good idea. But the reason why I'm showing you guys Don Lemon in the B-roll footage is so that way you guys can be reminded one more time why it is this guy is such a useless turd. This guy actually had the nerve to put out there that he was leaving Twitter and that you could only find him on YouTube and TikTok, as if to say anybody cared. Don, nobody cares, bro. Or sister, whatever the hell you want to be called. Fact of the matter is that nobody cares. And by the way, talking about Joy Reid earlier, you guys saw her, and of course, white reparations is trending because these people have gotten this crap trending because obviously these people don't believe in having, how do I say, I'll put it this way here. Once you take away the advantages from these people, you find out that they really and truly are weak. Now, I'm also showing you guys James Carville in the B-roll footage as well. And the reason why I'm showing you guys James Carville is because I played this little rant earlier this week in one of my videos. I think it was the video that I did on the Democratic Party being dead. And James Carville is going to come back up in this video here because Carville is an election guy. Now, I don't really agree with what Carville is saying, most of what his politics are, but I do, and I have said this before, that I believe that James Carville is probably one hell of a hoot to hang around. He's probably an extremely fun guy to be around because he tells such strange stories and also that voice of his.
We keep wondering why these young people aren't coming home to the Democrats. We say, oh, why blacks are not coming home to the Democrats? Because Democratic messaging is full of shit. That's why.
He's absolutely hilarious. However, this is the same guy who coined the phrase, "It's the economy, stupid." This is also the same guy who went completely dirty in the Clinton administration when Paula Jones came out to basically tell the truth about what happened between her and Bill Clinton and say that if you drag a dollar through a trailer park, you'd be amazed at what you find. Carville says provocative crap all the damn time, and it always evokes some form of response. But typically, that is what it's designed to do. He's very, very good at getting the camera put on him and away from everybody else. The man has been in the business for a long time, and while I do not agree with this man's politics, I do got to tell you right here that the guy is 100% correct when he says that you got to drop the wokeness. Well, of course, you guys will see over the course of this video, when I get to it here real soon, you will find out that these people will not drop the wokeness because they are, in fact, beholden to these crazies. One of these crazies is in the B-roll footage, Roland Martin. We'll get to him in a second, but we got to start with the first one. Well, not really Joy Reid, but we got to start with, because we already talked about Joy Reid. We talked about Joy Reid a lot, and I quite frankly don't want to talk about the bitch anymore this week. We got to talk about Charlamagne the Fraud, a.k.a. 46-year-old man-child Leonard McKelvey.
The demographics here. I mean, Trump got 1 out of every 3 voters of color.
No.
Yeah.
1 out of
33%.
No. Really?
Yeah.
When you say color, you mean like black, brown, everything. Oh, well, I think that, people have different issues that they care about. And I think that there's nobody out there that's a single issue voter. I think some of this is a backlash to race and gender and identity politics. But, man, most people, they just care about keeping food on their table and keeping a roof over their head. And I think sometimes people forget about that. I think that they forget about, the working class. And for whatever reason, Donald Trump speaks to the grievances of the working class in a real way. And I keep telling folks, people will forget what you did, they'll forget what you said, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. And when you go back to 2020, even though it was a pandemic and it was COVID,
yeah,
people don't care. All they know is they got stimulus checks with his name on it, and that's what they remember. And so people think about that. When you have conversations with folks, they be like, yo, I remember how 2020 felt. And they think that they're going to feel that, in this next term.
Yeah, I mean, how do you explain? I mean, he obviously swept the battleground states. He drove up, turnout around the country in Republican areas, but he did much better than he had done before in places like Chicago, Brooklyn.
That right there was Jonathan Karl from ABC News telling Charlamagne the Fraud that 1 in 3 people of color voted for Donald Trump. Now, when I say 1 in 3 people of color, I'm talking about not just black people. I'm talking about Hispanic people, Asian people, Chinese, Japanese, Oriental, whichever one you might want to say, Muslim, Indian. They voted for Donald Trump. And Charlamagne the Fraud's response was basically bewilderment. And he said, well, stimulus checks and people remember how you feel. I think people remember that they've been broke for the past 4 years. I think people remember that I think what's on these people's minds is that the Biden administration has been way worse. I think what's on people's minds is that they've been lied to by people like Leonard McKelvey for the last 4 years. They've also been told that they were racist because they have a certain feeling, or they've been told that they were racist because they were not black. I'm pretty sure that they remember that too, there, Leonard. But I did say that I was going to talk about Carville, so let us go ahead and get to that. So, guys, this clip is roughly 2 minutes and 14 seconds. It's pretty much most of what I've covered, but I'm going to let Carville say it because obviously the way Carville kind of speaks it makes it, absolutely hilarious and quite frankly entertaining. But the reason why I'm going to let it play through as long as it is because, well, you guys will see here in a second that it's just too daggone entertaining to interrupt.
For a female president. But last spring you said, a suspicion of mine is that there are too many preachy females dominating the culture of the Democratic Party. Do you stand by that? Females?
Would you look at our male vote? Would somebody just take a look at how we did with males and how we did with non-white males and tell me that the Democrats don't have a messaging problem, that their message comes across as too feminine? I mean, of course I was right when I said that. I don't think there's not a person in the world I've talked to that doubts really, or somebody going to really tell me we don't have a problem with male voters?
Well, that's really interesting
because you're telling me something I'm completely unaware of.
No, I'm going to read you the stats. As you know, well, you know the stats. 1 in 3 voters of color voted for Trump. Trump carried Hispanic men by 10 points. Trump improved his support with younger voters compared with 2020. And you're right, he did win the male vote. So I just need to understand this, because what are you saying then that Democrats need to do about the so-called gender gap? What should they do?
Well, first thing, they could have done a lot of muscular economic messaging that we didn't do. We could have been for increase the minimum wage to $15 an hour. We could have talked more about raising taxes on incomes above $400,000 and using that money to help young people buy a house. We can certainly shovel the entire identity politics about 50 feet in the ground and bury it. I mean, you can start by doing things like that. You could have got out in front of the crime issue, which, by the way, the crime rate in the United States is down a historic amount by 30%. But we were not able to talk about crime because the woke police would not allow that. And one of the great accomplishments of the Biden-Harris administration.
Preachy females, you tell them that men that can't have hamburgers, and stupid wokeness and public safety, and and the stink is going to be on us. He would later on say in another interview that the stink of defund the police, the stink of CRT, the stink of wokeness, that crap was going to be on them for a very long time. And it's going to be more than one cycle. It's probably going to be about 3 or 4 cycles, meaning midterm and presidential cycles. Like I said before, the Democratic Party, for all intents and purposes, is done. It's dead. But even 10 years from now, when we look back at this period in time, we could look at them and say to the Democratic Party nominee that may be their nominee for president and say, it was your party that opened up the southern border. It was your party that defunded the police. It was your party. It was you who did this crap. People have very, very long memories like elephants. They don't forget exactly how bad things were under the Democrats being in charge from 2021 to 2024. People don't forget that crap. People remember exactly how bad it was. So, yeah, Carville talking about this right here being a stink and the fact that they're going to be stuck with this stigma, quite frankly, pretty daggone true. But there is one person out there who, quite frankly, does not want to accept this, and that right there is Rollie, Pollie, Ollie. Let's roll this first part, and let's come back on the other end, because once again, we're going to listen to Carville rant. And, of course, Rollie, Pollie, Ollie, being the race grifter that he is, doesn't want to handle any form of or want to take any kind of a criticism, which is, by the way, these people's biggest problem. But
start complaining and, oh my God, this is what happened and why we lost, and it's defund the police, it's wokeism, it's identity politics, it's all of that stuff, even though none of that stuff Vice President Kamala Harris actually talked about. It's just whining and complaining. Here's James Carville just really upset, talking about, man, we told y'all this identity crap, it's awful. Listen to this.
Get your head around that. In all of the Washington-based Democrats farting around, going to wine and cheese parties and talking about how misogynistic race comes, get your ass out of Washington and go work on a 2026 campaign and do penance to make up for your goddamn arrogance and stupidity. Well, we're going to say, we told you so. We told you this identity shit was disaster. We told you to get out in front of public safety issues. You didn't. We told you to have an open process and demonstrate the magnificent and staggering and deep talent that exists in the modern Democratic Party. You didn't. We told you to differentiate yourself from Biden. You didn't. I hate to be some fucking know-it-all, but all of these things are part of the record.
Well, there's a lot there that we could criticize, but like I said, Rollie, Pollie, Ollie and the race grifters, they don't exactly believe in criticism. Constructive criticism can go a long way. Nobody's a harsher critic on themselves than me. I know it doesn't look that way, but But it's true. I stress that all the time, and I always wonder what I'm going to do. Look, it would actually help Rollie, Pollie, Ollie if he just simply listened to Carville here instead of, going to the whole old white Democrat type thing. But, whatever. We got more to talk about. Let's roll the next part.
That trips me out is all of a sudden they're blaming identity politics. And here's the thing, Cliff, they never seem to admit that whiteness is identity politics. Maleness, white maleness is identity politics. It seems that, if it's black or women or Latino or gay, that's the only identity politics that exists. Here is Donald Trump touting identity politics today.
Yes. And getting their money's worth. Furthermore, I will direct the Department of Justice to pursue federal civil rights cases against schools that continue to engage in racial discrimination.
Well, gee, Roland, did you ever think that maybe screaming white man bad, you're racist, that everybody who happens to be not black, did you think that maybe people would react to that? Did you think maybe people would, that people might have voted for Trump, not so much because it was Donald Trump or so much because the Democratic Party itself was screwing everything up? Do you think maybe it's possible that they voted for Trump because of people like yourself? I mean, oftentimes people vote against other people because of the way they act. Also, one more thing, too, that needs to be said before I move on to the next point. A lot of people are kicking around the possibility that Donald Trump probably would have won the election anyways, even if the economy actually was good. And I'm here to tell you guys right now, it's very, very possible that right there could, in fact, have been the case. It would have been a very slim election win, but I think he probably would have won just on cultural wars alone. It seems to me like the 75 million people who voted for Donald Trump this time around wanted to give a great big giant FU to everybody for everything in the world, from the race narrative to the mainstream media telling them that they're racist, they're sexist, they're misogynistic, to the mainstream media lying to them about their current economical situation, lying to them about the economy, lying to them about inflation. Also, at the same time, the fact that we've got a war going on between Russia and Ukraine, our tax dollars are going on over there, and of course we get the situation in the Middle East, which was contained when Donald Trump was president. People also remember back in 2021 the rampant COVID lockdowns and the continuation of that. I'm pretty sure that people reacted to that there, Rollie. Just simply saying. Okay, guys, Roland's going to go off here in a second, and he's basically going to say that Donald Trump played the identity politics game, white identitarianism, when Trump did not do that. I mean, look, if I was to come out here and do the whole white rights thing, I probably would be removed from YouTube. I want to say that that's the reason why it was that they removed Richard Spencer. But then again, I've told people before that Spencer was just a good old-fashioned grifter. By the way, I found it funny that the country's leading white supremacists endorsed the woman of color for president. I actually found that absolutely hilarious. Look, the truth be told is this right here. Identity politics has killed the Democratic Party, and of course they're doing what it is that they always tend to do. They're accusing you of which that they are guilty of. Trump ran these ads, of course, and Rollie Pollie is going to talk about them here in a second, of how it was that Kamala was for they, them, and not you, those types of ads that we've talked about before. Those ads were very important because people looked at this stuff and they've actually got her words saying that she's okay with, having taxpayer-funded transgender surgeries in prisons and stuff like that there, and of course with people at the border. It was actually CNN that reported that story. We actually got her in her own words saying it. But still, though, at the same time, though, these people don't want to get off of it. And as I've said before, and I'll say again, I'll tell you guys why at the very end of the video, these people live off this stuff. And of course, these people are going to be attached to the Democratic Party, at least in the short term, and it's going to affect the Democratic Party going forward. But let's watch this last little bit before we close things out.
Donald Trump is saying, white people, I'm coming to you with reparations. The Republicans talk to these people about culture, about God, gays, and guns. Republicans ran $135 million worth of ads about Vice President Kamala Harris and transgender surgeries for illegal immigrants in prison. Even though the policy came together under Donald Trump, he was in the White Office. He was in the Oval Office. I call it the White Office because historically has been the...
Okay, I want to say this really quick about Trump's executive order, which is actually what it was. It was actually the policy that he put in place that kind of allowed that. But Trump never endorsed it or ran on it. Yeah, it would be one hell of a troll if Trump knew that he was leaving office in 2020 and that he signed a bunch of crazy stuff that the Democrats picked up on and then ran on and tried to throw it down our throats for 4 years so that way Trump could then use it to run against them in 2024. It would be absolutely hilarious to think about, just for a second, that Donald Trump actually set these people up before he left office in 2021. There would be it would actually be one hell of a story. It would be one hell of a movie. But then again, at the same time, though, who the hell knows? And like I said, these people are wondering why it is that they are being rejected. Well, look, let me say this before I close things out and give you my final assessment. The mainstream media at this point in time is about to become nothing more than comedy. It already is for some of us. I mean, I've already told you guys that I'm looking to get away from politics at the end of the year. I'm looking to get away from politics going into next year, and I'm looking to kind of change things up, start talking more about movies and sports and stuff, and maybe even do some movie reviews and point out what the directors and stuff were trying to say, that type of stuff there. And of course, there would still be some social commentary because obviously that is what I do here. But the point is this right here. After a while, this type of stuff right here just becomes good old-fashioned comedy. And don't worry, I'll be here to remind you guys that the mainstream media, especially MSDNC, is nothing more than things to just laugh at. I mean, it's absolutely hilarious to see these people melt down the way it is. But what's more hilarious is the fact that these people don't want to let go of the Democratic Party. Until the Democratic Party ultimately just kicks these people to the curb, what do? Well, they'll just continue to bitch, bellyache, and moan until Comcast chooses to sell them off. Some of these people, by the way, will probably have their own YouTube channels, and they probably won't amass much of a following, but as you guys can see, it doesn't mean that these people aren't trying to hold on to the current apparatus they have because they need that apparatus, they need that racial grift to live on. I mean, think about it real quick. If Roland Martin did not have the racial thing to live off of, what the hell would he do? I mean, just, look at pictures of gay black guys. The point is this right here. If the Democratic Party kicks these people to the curb and they start, drowning their voices out, meaning that they start I'll put it this way here. They put a muzzle on these people. They keep these people from getting back on television. The Eli Mistalls, the Joy Reids, all that type of stuff there. If they do that there, after a while, these people are not going to have anywhere else to go. Which makes you wonder what they do. Well, my thinking is, and you can quote me on this, is that they may even try to create their own black identitarian party. Like the Black Panthers or something like that there, which already exists. Maybe they take over it. I don't know. Still, at the same time, though, this is kind of sort of what these people do. Without the ability to grift off race, these people really and truly are nothing. And I think that you're starting to see the victimhood coalition fall apart, and it'll probably continue to eat each other for probably the next 4 or 5 years because, yeah, they're kind of in the bargaining stage of death of their movement and their party. Just saying. But you guys tell me what you think in the comment section. Make sure you guys please hit the like button, subscribe, share the video, sign off in the comment section, and I'll see you guys later.